Alright guys, welcome back to Tony the Technician's channel. So today we are going to be starting the teardown of my 350 and cleaning it up so I can start taping it off for painting. But in this video I want to cover removing the water pump, removing the harmonic balancer, the distributor, and then maybe removing the intake manifold. We're going to start off with the water pump and the harmonic balancer. Let me show you guys that. So we're going to start off with removing the water pump. Pretty simple since I don't have the pulley system on there anymore. And I've already drained the coolant out of each bank of the engine, which there's a drain plug on the bottom right there, the same as on the other side right here. Open those up, let it drain out. Then you shouldn't really have much coolant left that comes out when you pull the water pump off. It's pretty simple to remove it though. You just got 4 bolts in the front. They're 9/16, and then the water pump should just come right off. So basically all you'll need is a ratchet, extension, and your 9/16 socket. So I got the bolts removed and the water pump off. Luckily the sealant that was on there actually held the water pump on while I was removing the bolts, so I had to get a pry bar. You can use a pry bar or a large screwdriver and just pry it off. It'll come right off. Just be careful not to drop it. You can see a little bit of coolant on the ground, but that's all there was inside of it, so you shouldn't have much in there once you drain the banks on both sides. Alright, next I'm actually going to clean the seals up, get all that silicone and shit off of there, and then we're going to move on to removing the harmonic balancer. Like I did the gaskets for the headers and the fuel pump area, I'm going to use the same tools. Use a flat razor, gasket scraper. I also have this plastic razor blade, and then I also have brushes that I like to use. I actually like using the brass because it's not quite as rough as using the steel. But it's pretty simple. Now we're going to go ahead and clean this off. Guys, so I got this side done. I'm working on this side. It's much easier than the header gasket because the gasket isn't actually stuck on here, and it's not the same material as what was used on the header gasket. But you're also going to be careful not to get any of the RTV inside the engine. And what I do for these holes and everything, I have this small pick set, and I get in there and I dig all of the gasket out. Careful not to knock anything down inside. But it'll clean up real nicely. And then next I'll also have to clean up the water pump because I actually decided to reuse this water pump instead of going electrical. So that'll be next, along with the harmonic balancer. Finished up cleaning up the ports for the water pump. Got them nice and clean, got all the gasket out of there. Besides cleaning off the gasket on the water pump, don't forget to also clean up your bolts. Me and my father actually used, I believe we used T-paste on all these bolts to prevent water leaking. So make sure if you do that, or you use any type of sealer, that you go through and you clean off your bolts. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. Bolts cleaned up. Now we're moving on to the harmonic balance puller. What you're going to need is a puller. You're going to need this part, the adapter, which I'll be using this one, which just goes into the end of here. And then you need to figure out the length and thread that you're going to need in order to bolt it to your harmonic balancer. Mine are going to be these 3 fine thread bolts. So first, you're gonna feed this through the center. So let's do that now. All right, guys, so I got this threaded through. And then once you have it started through, you can take whichever end that you're gonna be using. They give you a few different options. Just got that on there. Just gonna slide right in the front. And click. Then you're gonna take it over to your harmonic balancer. You're gonna line it up and feed whatever bolts match up with your harmonic balancer and get it bolted up. Alright guys, so I have these 3 bolts threaded in. It's also 9/16, so just go ahead, tighten those up just till they start to snug up. And then you can start adjusting your center rod until you feel it press against the back plate. So. Alright guys, so I was going to use my little 1/4" impact, or impact that accepts basically any size, but I bought this cheap ass set that goes in the impact, and what happens when you have a really nice impact and a cheap Harbor Freight adapter, it twisted the entire frame and broke it off inside. Luckily it just came right out, but let's try a better one. So I got my 1/2" ratchet here because I need a little bit more leverage. I couldn't find an actual good adapter for that because I haven't ordered it yet, so I'm just going to do it with the ratchet. But in order to keep this from turning, since I don't have anybody to help me, I don't really have a belt or anything to actually hold the harmonic balancer from turning, I took a bolt and I put it in the back right here, so the bolt hits the block and keeps it from turning. So if you don't have any help, that'll work. Now what you're gonna do is keep ratcheting this. You're gonna go in, and this center rod's gonna push, and it's gonna pull the harmonic balancer out. So just keep doing that till your harmonic balancer comes out. It is removed. The further you go with it as you ratchet, the easier it's gonna go. And as soon as you see the end of this lip coming out, you should be basically just be able to pull it right off. Another reason I was taking this off, well, I need to get in here for the cam, but I'm gonna be replacing all these seals in here as well. I also want to clean it up, take a look at the timing chain, all that. So that's how you remove the harmonic balancer. Next, I'm just gonna clean this up, and then we'll move on to the distributor. Got it all cleaned up here. As you can tell, it's a brand new seal. It's just 8 years old. This thing's literally, everything on it's brand new. It's just been sitting for 8 years. Now before I move on to the distributor, I'm actually going to drain the oil, but my water pump's sitting in my oil pan right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and clean up the water pump, drain the oil, and then we'll start on the distributor. Go ahead and drain the oil now. I got my water pump up on the workbench I'm about to clean up, but let's let it drain while I work. This oil's been in here for 8 years, like I just stated. It's brand new, full synthetic oil. Real expensive shit, but let's see what it looks like. Right here on this oil pan, I have the drain plug is 13/16. So let's take a look. Alright, so it's actually, I mean, it's a little dark, but it's actually really clean. Besides being a little dark, it's pretty thick shit. Alright, now I'm just going to move on to the water pump. Water pump cleaned up. Water pump outlets here cleaned up. Now we're going to go around, we're going to move the spark plug wires. And then we're going to remove the distributor. First I'm going to remove the cap so I can see inside, just to make sure that my distributor is actually pointing towards my number one cylinder. Should be. And then in order to remove it, I also believe it is 9/16 bolt right here. It's just the hold down for it. And once you remove that, you can get that out of the way and slowly pull your distributor up. I'll try and get it on camera. I'm sorry guys, it's hard to do with one person. I can't really hold the camera and show you guys exactly what I'm doing every time. So I went around and I removed all the spark plug wires off of the spark plugs. Now, in order to take a look underneath this cap, you have 4 screws around the base. And you just take a flathead screwdriver, you kind of push down and turn them until they're all unlocked. And then the cap just comes off. Then you'll have to disconnect this from the cap, and then I just wanted to make sure that this is facing towards the number one cylinder. I also made sure before I pulled the harmonic balancer that it is at 0 and my number one cylinder is at top dead center. So the only thing you have left to do is take a wrench or whatever you can fit in here and loosen this bolt. I've already done so. Once you get it loose, just take it out. Be careful. I have a washer on top. I'm not sure if you will too. Set those aside. And then slowly lift your distributor out. Make sure, try not to knock it on anything on the way out. Make sure you do it nice and slow. Alright, now be aware that this is going to rotate when you're pulling it out, because you have the gear that's on the bottom. So when you pull it out, that gear is going to spin this way, so when you go to put it back in, it's going to rotate back. So you know, if you know where this is pointing before, and I go and install my new distributor, I know that I should basically be good when I have this set to the same position. But in order to put it in and have it facing this way, you have to have it one click to the side, and when it drops down, it's going to rotate just like it is now, just like that. So just slowly pull it out. So there's that gear. You're also going to have a washer or a gasket up here. So there it is. That's how you remove the distributor. Now you can go ahead and put it back together and set it aside. Alright guys, now that I have the distributor removed, go ahead and clean this off with a rag. You don't have to, but since I'm still working on the disassemble, I'm going to take some masking tape and I'm going to tape over this to make sure I don't get any crap down inside the engine. Got some masking tape on it. It's simple. Just take your hammer, preferably a ball peen, but regular hammer will work, and just lightly tap it around the edges. This is how you're going to do the masking for painting the engine as well. You can use a razor blade. I find it pretty easy to do it this way. Once you tap around it, it's going to cut the tape. Nice even cut. So you guys can do it either way. You can use a hammer and lightly tap, and that's how it should turn out. Nice even little cut around the entire thing. Make sure no shit gets down in there. I'm going to go ahead and clean up a little bit more, and I think we're going to actually move on to removing the intake manifold. Pretty simple process, just removing these bolts all around the outside, and might be kind of a pain in the ass just because of the sealant and the gaskets and everything, but that's what we're moving on to now. Guys, same thing when doing the intake manifold. You're going to need your ratchet, an extension, and a 9/16 socket. You're just gonna, there is actually a bolt pattern, I believe, in taking these off, so I'm gonna go ahead and look that up, see if there's a specific way I should take it off. And we're gonna go ahead and remove this intake manifold. Okay, guys, there's a bolt pattern for installing intake manifold. I don't think you necessarily have to do it when uninstalling the intake manifold, but I am going to post a picture in this video of the pattern that you should follow on a small block Chevy. It starts with 1 over here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it works its way around. But I'll post a picture so you guys can see. I'm going to go ahead and unbolt this and get it off of here. Bolts removed. One thing I do is I take a Sharpie and I write on a plastic bag, and I keep everything separate. I got my transmission bolts here, I got my crank pulley bolt, distributor, water pump. I mean, everything, I keep it all separated so I know which bolts go to what when I reassemble. Except for like head bolts and stuff, I suggest probably getting new ARP studs and everything. So other than that, just keep everything separated and organized. Don't rush, just take your time. Now let's go ahead and get this thing taken off. It's not too bad to get off. Once you get the bolts out, of course it might be a little bit of a pain in the ass because of the sealant and the gaskets, but just find a spot around the intake manifold where you can get a pry bar in. And once you just get it cracked, just break the seal a little bit. It's pretty easy from there. But this thing looks fantastic. Haven't even touched it. You can tell, you know, we completely rebuilt this thing 8 years ago, so it looks great. But I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up, just around the heads and stuff. And make sure, if you're not able to tear the engine down and rebuild it all at once, anytime you leave it sit, make sure you cover it, whether it's with an engine tarp or whether you use a big trash can bag. Anything to keep shit from falling inside the engine. Alright guys, I decided, since it hasn't really taken much time to disassemble this, I'm actually going to throw in how to remove the heads as well. So basically there's another bolt pattern for these heads, same as the intake manifold. With the heads, it's going to be more of a circular pattern. So you're going to start in the center and then you're going to work your way out all the way around. I'll also post a picture in the video of the bolt pattern that you should follow in order to uninstall and install heads on a small block Chevy. But I'm going to go ahead and get that started. In order to remove the heads, again, ratchet extension, and instead of 9/16, it's going to be 5/8. And then just follow the bolt pattern all the way around. There aren't just the bolts inside the head, you also have them along the bottom. So like this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all the way around. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get this head off. sometimes I'm using the 1/2-inch ratchet to get a little bit more leverage, but sometimes the socket is just a little too thick or a little too big in diameter to fit between the rockers or down here along the bottom. And another thing, some small block Chevys, their 12 bolts on the heads will actually be 1/2 inch, I believe. But these aren't stock heads. These are world product SR Torquer heads. And the actual bolt size is 5/8. Not too sure if all Chevys are like that, but just letting you guys know. See, this 3/8 inch ratchet actually fits on here a lot better. When you're in tight spaces, you just don't get the leverage that you would with a 1/2 inch ratchet. You could use a breaker bar. I have one, but I have both ratchets right here, so it's not bad. And as you can see, sorry if it's hard to see, guys. I don't really have anything to hold my camera, but I'm working my way in a circle all the way out. They're torqued down pretty tight, so just gotta work at them. They're not too terrible. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish this head up, get it removed, show you guys what it looks like. Alright guys, so I'm about to remove the head now. Just want to let you guys know, this is my last bolt that I have to remove on the head. But before you do that, you need to go through and actually loosen all the bolts on your rockers, because these are actually holding tension on the head. Now the head should stay when I remove this last bolt, because it has the little pins that actually hold the head on. That and the gasket is on there, so it should be holding on there pretty tight. And you'll probably need a pry bar in order to get them off, but just remember to loosen the rockers before removing the head, and then do your circular pattern. Alright guys, so all the bolts are out, and all of these are loosened to where there's about 2 threads left. So they're all equal all across, so tension should be free. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and remove the head. Alright guys, there's the head removed. Here's the head. Left all the bolts in it. There's the push rods. The cylinders look fantastic. 440 over. Got some shit in here. Got a little dead spider right in here. It's a good life for him. Just clean these pistons off a little bit. I mean, they only have 100 miles on them, so they're brand new. Clean that all up. Get this gasket off of here. That's about it. I'm gonna move on to removing the other head, but I'm not really gonna put it in the video because I mean it's the same process as removing this head. But if you guys have any questions on how to do any of this, please let me know. If there's any improvements that you would like in my video, if I'm doing something wrong or annoying or anything like that, let me know so I can improve my videos for you guys. Maybe get a stand so I can actually set my camera up so you guys can see what I'm doing instead of me telling you how to do it but not really showing you. Please hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.